Have you ever sat in a crowded room and still felt like you were the only one there? Surrounded by noise, notifications, deadlines, small talk, but something inside you was screaming for more? No more noise. Not more approval, more clarity, more purpose. You scroll through highlight reels, watch people chase likes and applause, but deep down your soul ain't impressed. Because none of that fills the quiet ache inside you, the ache that says you were made for something greater. See, most folks get uncomfortable in the silence. They panic when things slow down. But what if I told you the silence was never your enemy? What if I told you the quiet place, that still moment where it's just you and your thoughts isn't a punishment, it's a preparation? You've been looking around wondering why you're different. Why the old conversations bore you? Why crowds don't excite you like they used to? Let me tell you something, you're not broken. You're just evolving. There comes a moment in every warrior's life when the crowd starts to blur, the noise starts to fade, and what used to entertain you no longer fuels you. That moment is sacred. That moment is your separation. Because you can't hear the call on your life while trying to match the rhythm of everybody else's. You can't become who you were born to be while trying to fit into who the world expects you to be. The wolf doesn't howl to join the pack, it howls to remind the wild, I'm still here. And maybe that's where you are right now. Not lost, not behind, just early, ahead of the crowd, ahead of the comfort. You feel that pull in your chest because you're not meant to stay common. And I need you to understand this. Every great awakening starts in isolation. Every next level begins in the wilderness. So don't flinch, don't fold. The silence you're in right now, it's not absence, it's alignment. It's easy to look at isolation like a setback, like the absence of company means the absence of strength. But that's not the truth. The wilderness doesn't break you, it builds you. You think lions get crowned in the zoo? No. Kings are made in the wild. That dry, lonely, unfamiliar place where no one is clapping, no one is watching, and no one is checking in on you, that's where warriors are born. Because out here, there's no one to lean on. Out here, you either get sharp or you get swallowed. And maybe that's where you find yourself now, on the edge. Quiet nights, long mornings, just you and your thoughts, no audience, no applause. And that's where the real work begins. That's where the excuses die. That's where the layers of false identity fall off. And what's left is real, raw, unfiltered. The version of you this world desperately needs, but you've been too distracted to meet. See, comfort is the enemy of transformation. And in the wilderness, there is no comfort, only clarity. You learn to hear your own voice again, not the voice they gave you. You wake up not because someone's waiting on you, but because you told yourself you would. You grind when no one's watching. You push through the silence, and every day you do, you're building something. Most people will never understand discipline without applause, growth without attention, strength without spectacle. So don't mistake the silence for punishment. Don't confuse solitude with weakness. This wilderness you're in, it's not exile, it's elevation. It's shaping your character, testing your hunger, and when you come out of it, you won't be the same. You'll walk differently, stand differently, think differently. Because the man or woman who survives the wilderness doesn't return empty. They return equipped with precision, with peace, and with power. Have you ever seen what happens with steel before it becomes a sword? It gets thrown into fire, beat with pressure, held in heat until it surrenders its weakness. That's isolation. That's what you're going through. That room you're in, the quiet place nobody sees, where nobody claps and no one's texting, I'm proud of you, that's the forge. And I get it. Most people run from it. They run to crowds, to noise, to busyness, because silence exposes everything. It holds up a mirror you can't scroll past. It strips off the filters and shows you, not the version you post, not the one people praise you. And that's why it's powerful. That's why it's rare. Because very few are willing to sit still and face the echo of their own truth. But you've been chosen for more. And if you want more, then you got to go through more. Isolation is not a timeout. It's a training ground. It's where the athlete hits the gym when the crowd is gone. It's where the writer sits staring at a blank page with no applause, waiting. It's where the future king sharpens his voice in prayer, not on stages. It's not punishment. It's preparation. Let me tell you something. Jesus went into the wilderness before he stepped into his mission. David was in caves before he wore the crown. The great ones don't skip isolation. They go through it, and it's that silence that shapes them into someone the world ain't ready for. You stop needing to be seen. You stop chasing likes. You stop explaining yourself to people who don't even understand the assignment in your life. And all that noise, that craving for attention, it dies. And something greater wakes up. Discipline replaces motivation. Focus kills distraction. Purpose drowns out doubt. So if they're saying you've changed, they're right. You have, because when you sharpen yourself in silence, you come out walking differently, speaking differently, carrying something they can't name, but they feel it when you walk in the room. And when they ask you where you've been, you don't need to explain. Just smile and say, I've been becoming. There's a shift that happens when you stop looking left and right and start looking straight ahead. When you no longer crave crowds, but crave clarity, that's when you know you're not in a setback, you're in separation. And separation, when handled right, always leads to elevation. So let's talk about what that really looks like. You want to master your craft? Start showing up without an audience. Do you want discipline? Wake up when your body says no and your purpose says yes. Do you want to build something that lasts? Learn how to be faithful with no recognition. You train in the dark so you can be dangerous in the light. Here's the advice they don't post in quotes and call inspiration. Turn your phone off for 3 hours. No music, no noise. Sit with a journal and ask yourself, what am I really doing this for? If that question makes you uncomfortable, good. It means it's cutting deep enough to matter. Write it down. Wrestle with it. Truth shows up when the noise shuts up. Next, audit your circle. Who around you drains your focus? Who distracts you with drama, comparison, or comfort? Cut it. Not with hate, but with wisdom. You don't need 50 cheerleaders. You need 3 soldiers. Find the ones who sharpen you, not just the ones who clap when you post. And here's one more. Every morning, give your dream an appointment, not just a wish, a calendar slot. Wake up and go to work on it. Like it's already paying you, already feeding your family, already changing lives. That book, that body, that business, that better version of you, it doesn't need your excuses, it needs your sweat. Stop telling the world what you're gonna do. Start showing up in silence. Build behind the scenes. Grow off the grid. And when you do speak, let your results do the talking. Because once you start moving like that, that's not loneliness. That's power in progress. That's walking with divine focus. That's legacy work. There was a man I once knew worked in a warehouse for years. Every day he'd show up at 5 a.m. long before the crew. Quiet, clocked in, no talking, no flexing, just routine. While the rest of the world was debating dreams and retweeting motivation, he was in that back room, building his side hustle, grinding on his breaks, studying on his lunch hour, investing what little he had left after the bills were paid. No applause. No, you got this from the crowd. Just silence and consistency. 3 years later, he walked out that warehouse with the keys to his own company. See, that's what happens when you move in silence and strike with precision. You stop throwing punches in the air. You stop wasting energy explaining moves you haven't made yet. And you start locking in not just with your time, but with your intent. Because when the noise fades, focus steps forward. This is the season for strategic stillness. You don't need to announce every step. You don't need the group chat's approval. You don't need to show your vision to people who wouldn't recognize the purpose if it stood in front of them. You need execution. Quiet, deliberate, deadly accurate. That's what separates real builders from loud starters. Let me ask you something. What if your greatest breakthrough required you to disappear for a while? Could you do it? Could you sit down long enough, unplug long enough, cut the noise long enough to ask yourself the real questions? What do I want? Why does it matter? Who am I without the noise? That's where the power is. Not in shouting your plans, but in sharpening your edge. Not in being busy, but in being precise. You stop looking left and right. You stop scrolling for direction. You stop performing. And your vision, it gets clearer, tighter, stronger, because now you're not just moving, you're aiming, you're aligning your days with destiny, not distractions. So don't waste another step explaining yourself. Let the work speak. Let the silence train your instincts. Let the quiet mold your strategy, because when it's time to strike, they'll hear you in the results. There's this boy I knew from back in the day, grew up without much, no silver spoon, no safety net. His name never made the roll call of the gifted. Nobody picked him first. But every morning that boy laced up busted sneakers, ran on concrete like it was sacred ground, and trained like the world already knew his name. He wasn't looking to be discovered. He was busy being forged. Fast forward, same boy. Different man stood in front of the very crowd that once overlooked him, not asking for permission, but handing out purpose. Because let's be clear, you're not meant to be found. You're meant to be formed. And formation, it doesn't happen in the sunshine. It happens in the storm. Struggle is not your enemy, it's your refinery. You don't become sharp by accident. You become sharp because life pressed you, broke you, tested you, and you didn't fold. You focused. Everybody wants ease. Everybody wants the throne. But nobody wants the fire. Nobody wants the resistance. Nobody wants the days when your own doubt is louder than your dream. But that's exactly where the growth is. It's in the pressure. It's in the silence after the disappointment. It's in the sweat after the setback. It's in the moment when you fall flat and choose to rise up anyway. Stop praying for easy. Start preparing for battle. Stop asking for comfort. Start building your character. You've been through too much to walk soft now. Every bruise has meaning. Every scar is a strategy. Every wound you survived, it built you. So stop waiting for everything to feel right. Right is not a feeling. It's a decision. This life is not about being protected from the process. It's about being forged in it. And the ones who get stronger, they're the ones who refuse to treat pain like punishment. They treat it like practice. They use it, channel it, rise from it. You think the lone wolf survives because he got lucky? Nah. He survived because the wilderness demanded his best and he gave it. The hunger, the cold, the wind, it didn't break him. It built instinct. It built a fight. It built clarity. And that's what you're doing right now. You're becoming, so don't run from the weight. Carry it. Train under it. And when the world sees you walking tall, they won't realize the steel in your spine was built in nights they never saw. And when you've been through the fire, when the world tried to melt you and instead it made you harder, clearer, and sharper, something shifts. You stop waiting for someone to call your name. You stop begging for open doors. You stop looking for the crowd, because after the forge, after the wilderness, after the storm, you don't need a pack to move. You lead yourself. Understand this, you were not built to be understood by everybody. You were not designed to be explained, to be soft enough for comfort or loud enough for approval. You were born to hunt, and when you're in the middle of that pursuit, when you're building quietly, healing privately, sharpening daily, don't be surprised if the crowd goes silent. That's fine, because when you're hunting a legacy, you don't run with noise. You run with focus. You've got to define yourself before the world hands you labels, because if you don't, they will. And they'll get it wrong. They'll say you're too serious, too focused, too distant. They'll mistake your discipline for arrogance, your silence for weakness. your solitude for sadness, but let them talk, because legends aren't built by what they say. They're built by what you do. And here's what they never tell you, the right ones. Don't come before the work, they show up after the hunt, after the miles, after the discipline, after you've walked alone so long that your own footsteps became music. Then, and only then, your tribe shows up, not the crowd, not the cheerleaders, but those who recognize the scent of resilience, those who speak the same language of quiet hunger. So stop looking around wondering if you're too far ahead, too different, too alone. You're not. You're just walking your assignment. Keep going. Keep moving on purpose. Keep speaking the truth. And when it's time, the ones who were built to run beside you, they'll find you. Not because you begged, not because you posted, because when you lead yourself with clarity, when you walk on purpose, and when you stop asking for permission to be great, you don't find your pack finds you. Once you know who you are, once you've defined yourself in the silence, carved your identity in the fire, you stop moving like a question mark. You stop flinching for applause. You stop lowering your volume so others feel tall. You move like a mission, calm, calculated, unapologetic. And here's the key. You don't have to be loud to be lethal. The loudest one in the room is rarely the most focused, the ones who change the game. They move in silence and strike with precision. They're not performing for the crowd, they're locked in on purpose. Every step is intentional. Every action is measured. They don't explain moves, they execute them. See, when your identity is forged, your energy becomes sacred. You stop giving your time to confusion. You stop explaining your vision to people still stuck in circles. You stop watering yourself down to fit in places you were never meant to stay. And your silence. That's not absence. It's alignment. It's a man sharpening the sword. It's a woman loading the next round. It's preparation, not pause. Focus like this, it's rare. Because most people are chasing everything but clarity. They're busy being visible instead of being effective. They're in love with the spotlight but allergic to the silence where legacy gets built. But not you. You're different. You've seen what noise costs. You've tasted distraction. And you're not hungry for attention, you're hungry for results. So let them wonder. Let them guess. Let them think you disappeared. While they're posting, you're building. While they're scrolling, you're climbing. While they're talking, you're sharpening. And when it's time to move, you won't have to raise your voice. Your execution will speak volumes, because power isn't proven in noise. It's proven in control. And when the moment comes, when the doors crack open and the opportunity calls, you won't stumble into it by accident. You'll walk into it like you've been here before. And now you're here, on the other side of the noise, beyond the need to impress, beyond the weight of explanation. You didn't arrive here by accident. You walked through fire, through silence, through rejection, through days nobody saw, and nights nobody applauded. Not to prove a point, but to become a weapon. This path you're on isn't empty. It's exclusive. The space between you and the world, that's not isolation, it's transformation. You're not walking alone because you're weak. You're walking alone because you're finally strong enough not to settle, strong enough to lead yourself when nobody's watching, strong enough to keep moving when the voices stop cheering. You're not being left behind. You're being set apart. And if it's quiet right now, good. That means the noise isn't in control anymore. That means your thoughts, your vision, your voice are getting louder, sharper, clearer. You don't need confirmation. You need execution. You don't need comfort. You need consistency. This is what power feels like. When it matures, it stops begging and it starts building. You don't grow strong when people are watching. You grow strong when no one claps and you keep going anyway. So don't flinch when the room gets quiet. Don't fold when you feel unseen. Every step you take in silence is a contract with your future. Every day you choose discipline over distractions is a seed in the ground, and harvest always comes. Sometimes walking alone isn't a setback. It's a setup for strength no crowd can give you. They'll call it cold. They'll call it distant. They'll say you've changed. And you have. You're no longer fueled by the fear of being left out. You're fueled by the fire of who you were born to become. And that fire can't be fed by followers. It's fed by faith, focus, ferocity. You're not behind. You're just building in silence on purpose. And when the moment comes, when the lights shift and the door opens, you won't have to announce a thing. Your presence will speak. Your execution will roar. And everything you built in the dark will stand in the light, undeniable, unshakable, unstoppable. You don't need to shout. You don't need to explain. You just need to move. Because when you choose to walk alone, you're not walking away. You're walking toward the strongest version of yourself. To those still listening, thank you. Not just for your time, but for your fight, for showing up for yourself, for refusing to quit when it would have been easier to stay average, for chasing clarity in a world that keeps selling noise. You didn't just hear this message. You felt it because something in you has already decided you're done. Waiting, done shrinking, done explaining. I don't know your name, but I know you're kind. You're the one who gets up when no one's watching, who keeps pushing when it hurts, who walks alone, not for attention, but for alignment. And I just want to remind you, you're not alone in this silence. You're not crazy for growing. You're not weak for walking away from what no longer fits. You're rising. So keep going. Stay sharp. Stay grounded. And remember this. The world may not understand your walk right now, but one day they'll witness your roar. Keep building. You're just getting started.